The Malon threat emerges. Seasoned human space marine Jerry Hicks had faced many challenges while patrolling the outer edges of human space, but nothing could have prepared him for what was about to unfold. It started as just another routine day at the remote listening post Zeta-9 when an unknown alien ship was detected entering the system. "Hicks, you're up. Go intercept that bogey in your Raptor," ordered his commanding officer over the comms. "Try to establish contact, but be careful, could be hostile." Jerry powered up his sleek fighter, the Raptor, and rocketed out of the hangar bay. As he approached the unidentified vessel, its unfamiliar streamlined silhouette set his nerves on edge. Definitely not a design from any species humanity had encountered before. "Attention, unidentified vessel. This is TSF Raptor Gamma 6 of the Terran Space Fleet. You have entered human space. Please identify yourself and state your intentions." Jerry hailed the ship on all frequencies. The response was immediate and aggressive. "We are the Malon. Your primitive species and its territories now belong to the Malon Star Empire. Power down your craft and prepare to surrender unconditionally to your new overlords." Jerry's sensors showed the alien ship locking weapons on his Raptor. "Surrender? Like hell he would." "I don't think so, E.T. I suggest you turn around before this gets ugly for you," he retorted, arming his fighters' rail guns and missile bays. The alien commander, who identified himself as Odin, sneered. "Foolish human. The Malon are the apex species of the galaxy. Your pathetic civilization is millennia behind ours. You stand no chance." Energy beams lanced out from the Malon ship, barely missing Jerry's Raptor. The dogfight was on. The Malon craft was fast and packed serious firepower, outclassing the Raptor in raw specs. But the Malon had never faced human cunning and audacity in battle. Jerry juked and jived, expertly evading their cutting-edge tracking systems. He peppered the enemy ship with rail gun slugs and a barrage of missiles, hammering its shields. Odin was shocked. No one could dodge Malon targeting computers, and chemically propelled missiles should have been like gnats against their shields. Yet, they were taking damage. Backup arrived for Jerry in the form of 3 more Raptors. Seeing the odds tipping against him, the furious Odin broke off, plotting a jump out of the system. "This isn't over, ape. You've just signed your species' death warrant," Odin transmitted before vanishing. As the alien ship jumped away, alarm screamed on Zeta-9. Multiple warp signatures detected. 9 capital ships incoming. The Malon invasion had begun. The battle for Zeta-9. 9 enormous alien battleships blinked into existence, belching fighters and assault craft. The automated defense turrets on Zeta-9 opened fire, but the sheer volume of the Malon assault quickly overwhelmed them. Human ships died in flames, hopelessly outmatched. Malon landing craft began disgorging troops onto the outpost. Jerry linked up with the battered defenders on Zeta-9. The grim reality sank in. This was a massive force, an armada with the clear intention of conquering human space and snuffing out human civilization itself. Outpost Zeta-9 had to hold, to buy time for reinforcements. Jerry gripped his rifle tight as he and his squad of Marines took positions. The fate of humanity itself hung in the balance. This tiny scrap of defiance had to hold against all odds. The Malon would learn what it meant to fight humans. They were about to get a vicious education in human determination and the ferocity they brought when pushed to the wall. The walls shook as another salvo of Malon energy beams pounded Zeta-9's rapidly failing shields. Jerry ducked into the command center, debris raining down from ruptured conduits in the ceiling. Colonel Strickland hunched over the main holotable, the ghostly light casting harsh shadows across his haggard features. "Colonel, sir, we can't hold out much longer. Those bastards have us completely surrounded," Jerry reported grimly. Strickland slammed a fist on the flickering display. "Goddamn it, Hicks. I'm open to suggestions here." A desperate plan formed in Jerry's mind. "Let me take a small team, infiltrate their flagship. We'll sabotage it from the inside, throw these alien pricks into chaos, and buy us some time for reinforcements to get here." Strickland looked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "That's a hell of a long shot, but I don't see many other options. You have a go, Lieutenant. Handpick your men and get it done." Jerry saluted crisply. "Yes, sir. We won't let you down." 15 minutes later, Jerry and his hastily assembled strike team boarded a captured Malon shuttle in the debris-strewn hangar. Sergeant Hawkins, the salty old demolitions expert, grinned manically as he cradled a satchel of explosives. Corporal Zane, the ghost-like infiltration specialist, checked his silenced weapons with cold precision. Private Lee, the baby-faced sniper prodigy, fidgeted nervously in his seat, belied by his elite combat skills. As the sleek craft rocketed away from Zeta 9, Jerry outlined the mission. "Listen up. We've got one shot at this. We sneak aboard that Malon dreadnought, fight our way to their reactor, and blow it straight to hell. No heroics, no solo crap. We do this fast and smart. As a team." "Understood." 3 voices barked in unison. "Hurrah!" The shuttle shuddered, the metal groaning around them as it passed through the dreadnought's shields and connected to an auxiliary airlock with a muted clang. The team charged down the boarding ramp, weapons up and scanning for targets. A pair of startled Malon technicians died before they could raise the alarm, felled by precise headshots from Lee's silenced rifle. Zane consulted a flickering holographic schematic, hacked from the Malon systems during the initial skirmish. "Reactor core is 6 decks down, heavily reinforced. We'll have to cut through the barracks levels to reach it." "Nothing's ever easy, eh?" Hawkins quipped, hefting his demo bag. "Just point me at what needs to go boom." The infiltration begins. As they crept through the bowels of the alien ship, the deck shuddered rhythmically. The Malon guns were hammering Zeta 9 relentlessly, each vibration a reminder of their friends fighting and dying to hold the line on the embattled outpost below. Colonel Strickland gritted his teeth as another explosion rocked the command center. Damage reports flooded in, each more dire than the last. The Malon energy beams were punching through their armor, seamlessly carving deep gouges into the heart of the installation. But he couldn't think about that now. He had a duty to the men and women under his command, to buy them every second he could. "Ramsay, concentrate fire on the nearest enemy cruiser. Bracketing spread of fusion missiles, full salvo," he ordered. The gunnery sergeant complied, his face a mask of focused perseverance. A volley of high-yield warheads spat from Zeta 9's launch tubes, crossing the void in seconds to detonate against the Malon ship's shields in blinding actinic flares. To Strickland's grim satisfaction, the alien cruiser listed out of formation, trailing debris and venting atmosphere from gaping hull breaches. A ragged cheer went up from the command crew, but it turned to ashes in the colonel's mouth. One cruiser down, but dozens more still rained death upon his outpost. He just prayed that Hicks and his team could pull off a miracle, or all their sacrifices would be in vain. Deep within the Malon dreadnought, Jerry and his infiltrators fought like men possessed. Alien warriors fell before their furious assault, plasma rifles barking in the tight confines as Zane and Lee cleared corridors with pitiless efficiency. Jerry and Hawkins pushed forward as the advance team, racing for the vulnerable reactor at the core of the ship. At last, they'd reached their objective. The massive armored door loomed before them, the barrier between their mission's success and utter disaster. Hawkins cracked his knuckles, pulling breaching charges from his satchel. "Give me 60 seconds, and I'll have this tin can cracked wide open." Jerry nodded, taking up an overwatch position as the sergeant worked. His radio crackled to life. Zane's strained whisper in his ear. "Contact rear. We've been made. Malon security forces closing in. Whatever you're going to do, boss, do it fast." Plasma bolts shrieked down the corridor as Hawkins wired the final charge. He met Jerry's eyes, a wordless understanding passing between the two veterans. The detonation would be bigger than they planned for. Someone would need to trigger it manually. Hawkins straightened, checking the action on his rifle. "Get the boys out safe, LT. I'll finish this. Jerry clasped the man's shoulder, emotion threatening to choke his words. Semper Fi, Hawk. I'll see you on the other side. Feet first into hell. Sir, Hawkins replied with a grim smile. The lieutenant sprinted back to his team's position, bellowing into his radio. All units, fall back to the shuttle. We are leaving, now. As they sprinted for the exit, they heard Hawkins' voice, calm and resolute over the comms. For Earth, for humanity. The explosives detonated with a thunderous roar that echoed through the ship. The Malin dreadnought shuddered violently, flames spewing from its side as the shockwave rippled outward. Hawkins' sacrifice paid off. The explosion was catastrophic, triggering a chain reaction that tore through the reactor. Fire and debris filled the corridors as the massive ship began to disintegrate from within. With seconds to spare, the surviving humans hurtled into the shuttle and rocketed away, the shockwave propelling them clear of the dying behemoth. As they soared back to Zeta-9, the Malin armada reeled in confusion. One of their mightiest ships had been felled by human hands, and the invincible Malin Star Empire had taken its first faltering step back. Turning the tide. The shuttle carrying Jerry and his team careened through space, debris trailing behind them as they put distance between themselves and the dying Malin dreadnought. The explosion had sent shockwaves through the Malin fleet, throwing their formation into disarray. Alarms blared within the shuttle's cramped interior, but Jerry's focus was razor-sharp. Status report, Zane. He barked over the comms. Zane, still shaken from the blast, quickly scanned the shuttle systems. Hull integrity is compromised but holding. We're leaking atmosphere, but we can make it back to Zeta-9. Engines are stable, but we're running hot. Good enough, Jerry muttered, gripping the controls. Get us home. As the shuttle streaked toward the beleaguered outpost, the Malin fleet struggled to regroup. The destruction of one of their capital ships had sent ripples of panic through their ranks. For the first time, the invaders hesitated, unsure of their invulnerability. The humans had struck a blow they hadn't anticipated. An impossibility, according to Malin doctrine. In the command center of Zeta-9, Colonel Strickland watched the flickering hullable with grim satisfaction. The destruction of the Malin dreadnought had bought them precious time, but they were far from out of the woods. He turned to his comms officer. Patch me through to the fleet. All channels. The officer nodded, and moments later, Strickland's voice echoed across the fleet. This is Colonel Strickland to all Terran forces. The Malin are not invincible. We've taken down one of their dreadnoughts, and now it's our turn to hit back. Target their lead ships. Show them what it means to face the Terran space fleet. Across the battlefield, the remaining human ships rallied. Inspired by the destruction of the Malin dreadnought, they renewed their assault with a ferocity born of desperation and hope. Fusion missiles streaked through space, targeting the Malin command ships. Railguns thundered, sending slugs tearing through enemy armor. The battle that had seemed hopeless moments before now had a spark of hope. Back on Zeta-9, the shuttle landed in a hangar that was barely holding together. As the hatch hissed open, Jerry and his team emerged, battered but alive. Medics rushed forward, but Jerry waved them off, heading straight for the command center. When he arrived, Strickland was waiting for him, a rare smile on his face. Damn fine work, Lieutenant. You just bought us a fighting chance. Jerry nodded, exhausted but resolute. We're not done yet, sir. The Malin will regroup. We need to press the advantage while they're off balance. Strickland agreed, his mind racing. We've got reinforcements en route, but they'll take time to arrive. Until then, we need to keep the pressure on. Every ship, every gun we have needs to be in the fight. Jerry leaned over the holotable, his mind working on the next step. We can hit their supply lines, disrupt their communications, anything to slow them down and sow more chaos in their ranks. Strickland nodded, already issuing orders. Get your team some rest. Hicks. You'll need it for the next round. Jerry saluted and turned to leave, but paused at the door. Hawkins, he didn't make it, sir. He stayed behind to blow the reactor. Strickland's expression hardened, but there was a flicker of sadness in his eyes. He died a hero, Lieutenant. We'll honor his sacrifice by making sure the Malon pay for every inch they take. Jerry nodded solemnly, then left the command center. He owed it to Hawkins and every other fallen soldier to see this fight through to the end. Guerrilla tactics. The battle for Zeta-9 had shifted from a desperate defense to a brutal, grinding war of attrition. The Malon, once so confident in their superiority, were now entangled in a conflict far more complex than they had anticipated. Human ingenuity and tenacity had turned the tide, and now it was the Malon who found themselves on the back foot. Jerry and his team, now bolstered by reinforcements, became the spearhead of the Terran counterattack. Their missions were surgical strikes deep behind enemy lines, targeting key Malon installations, supply depots, and communication hubs. Each successful operation further destabilized the Malon war effort. On one such mission, Jerry's team infiltrated a Malon forward base, a critical supply hub that kept their frontline forces operational. The base was heavily guarded, but the humans had learned how to exploit Malon weaknesses. They moved like shadows through the base, disabling security systems and planting explosives with precision. As they worked, Jerry kept his eye on the prize, a massive warehouse that stored vital supplies for the Malon fleet. If they could destroy it, the enemy supply lines would be crippled, forcing them to pull back or risk being cut off entirely. The team planted charges on key structural points within the warehouse, then retreated to a safe distance. Jerry watched the timer tick down on his wrist display, each second bringing them closer to another victory. "Detonation in 3, 2, 1, he whispered. The explosion was thunderous, a towering fireball that lit up the night sky. The warehouse collapsed in on itself, the shockwave rippling through the base. Malon soldiers scrambled in confusion, their disciplined formations breaking down into chaos. "Mission accomplished," Zane reported, a rare grin on his face. "Let's get out of here before they realize what hit them." The team exfiltrated under the cover of darkness, leaving behind a smoldering ruin that would take the Malon weeks to recover from. Every mission like this brought the humans closer to victory, but the cost was high. Each day saw more casualties, more sacrifices. Back on Zeta-9, the command center buzzed with activity. Colonel Strickland monitored the progress of the guerrilla campaign, satisfied with the results but aware of the heavy toll it was taking on his people. "Any word on reinforcements?" he asked his comms officer. "They're still 2 days out, sir," the officer replied. "We've lost contact with several outposts, and the Malon are reinforcing their positions in the sector. They're not giving up easily." Strickland nodded, his mind already working on the next move. "We need to keep them off balance until the fleet arrives. Hicks and his team are doing incredible work, but we need to hit them harder. Prepare a strike plan for their command ship. If we can take out their leadership, the rest might crumble." As the command center prepared for the next phase of the battle, Jerry and his team returned to base, exhausted but resolute. They knew the fight was far from over, but they were ready for whatever came next. The final assault. 2 days later, the reinforcements finally arrived. A massive Terran fleet emerged from hyperspace, weapons primed and ready to engage the Malon. The sight of the fleet brought a renewed sense of hope to the defenders of Zeta-9. It was time to take the fight to the enemy. Colonel Strickland stood on the bridge of the flagship, a powerful battleship named Resolute, as it led the charge against the Malon forces. The humans had fought tooth and nail to hold the line, and now they were ready to deliver a decisive blow. "Admiral Lawson, all ships report ready," the tactical officer reported. Lawson, a stern-faced veteran of countless battles, nodded. "Begin the assault. Target their command ship and break their formation. We're ending this today." The Terran fleet surged forward, weapons blazing as they closed the distance with the Malon. The enemy fought back with desperate fury, but the momentum had shifted irrevocably. Human ships weaved through the enemy formation, hammering them with precision strikes. Jerry and his team were aboard the Resolute, watching the battle unfold on the Hullitable. Their mission was clear. Once the Malon command ship was crippled, they would board it and finish the job, just as they had with the Dreadnought. The battle raged on, the void filled with the fire of exploding ships and the beams of energy weapons. The Malon command ship, a massive vessel bristling with weapons, was the focal point of the Terran assault. Fusion missiles and railgun slugs tore into its shields, weakening them with each volley. "Shields down to 30%, Admiral," the tactical officer reported. "We're breaking through." "Prepare the boarding teams," Lawson ordered, his eyes fixed on the target. "We're taking that ship." The Resolute closed in on the Malon command ship, its weapons battering down the last of the enemy's defenses. As the shields collapsed, boarding pods launched from the Terran battleship, streaking toward the enemy vessel. Jerry and his team were among the first to board. They blasted through the airlock, weapons at the ready, and stormed into the heart of the Malon ship. The corridors were a maze of alien technology, but they moved with purpose, guided by the intel they had gathered from previous missions. Their objective was the bridge, where the Malon leadership directed the battle. If they could capture or eliminate the command structure, the rest of the fleet would be thrown into disarray. Fighting their way through waves of Malon soldiers, Jerry's team pushed deeper into the ship. The resistance was fierce, but the humans fought with a tenacity that the Malon had not anticipated. They had learned the hard way that humans were far more dangerous than they appeared. Finally, they'd reached the bridge. The doors were sealed, but Zane quickly hacked the controls, and the team burst inside. The Malon officers turned in shock as the humans stormed the room, weapons blazing. The fight was brutal and swift. The Malon, though formidable, were overwhelmed by the ferocity of the human assault. In minutes, the bridge was secured, and the Malon command ship was at the mercy of the Terran forces. "Bridge secure," Jerry reported over the comms. "The Malon command ship is ours." Admiral Lawson's voice came through, filled with grim satisfaction. "Excellent work, Hicks. Let's end this war." Victory and reflection. With the capture of the Malon command ship, the tide of the battle turned decisively in favor of the Terrans. The remaining Malon forces, now leaderless and disorganized, began to retreat. The Terran fleet pursued them relentlessly, refusing to give the enemy a chance to regroup. On the bridge of the Malon command ship, Jerry and his team stood victorious. The battle had been won, but at a heavy cost. The loss of Hawkins and countless other soldiers weighed heavily on them, even as the reality of their victory began to sink in. Colonel Strickland's voice crackled over the comms. "You did it, Hicks. The Malon are retreating. Zeta 9 is secure." Jerry nodded, though the elation he had expected didn't come. The price of victory had been steep, and the war had taken a toll on all of them. But they had done what needed to be done. They had protected humanity, and they had shown the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. As they prepared to return to Zeta 9, Jerry took one last look around the bridge. The Malon had come to conquer, but they had been met with fierce resistance. The Terrans had fought not just for survival, but for the future of humanity. "We'll honor the fallen," Jerry said quietly to his team. "And we'll make sure the galaxy never forgets what it means to provoke humanity." The shuttle carrying Jerry and his team departed the Malon command ship, heading back to the Resolute. The war was far from over, but this battle had been a turning point. The Malon had been dealt a crushing blow, and the Terran forces had proven that they could stand up to even the most powerful of enemies. As the shuttle docked with the Resolute, Jerry felt a sense of resolve settle over him. They had won a hard-fought victory, but the fight for humanity's future would continue. And as long as there were people like him willing to stand up and fight, humanity would endure. "Let's go home," Jerry said, his voice filled with determination. The Resolute turned its prow toward Earth, leading the Terran fleet back home, victorious but vigilant, ready for whatever challenges the future might bring.